and how little we understand that our eyes open thanks to those who have chosen to close theirs for a while to enter the darkness so that we may see. How little we feel that fragile thread connecting the light within us to someone else's suffering, someone else's choice to become lost for a time, so that the world can keep breathing. We call it a sacrifice, but that word is too poor. It doesn't contain the depth of a love that needs no explanation. A love that doesn't shine, doesn't speak, doesn't ask to be understood. A love that simply carries. Sometimes when I look at the people that world calls failed, I feel that there is something quietly sacred within them. They do not defend themselves, do not argue, do not prove anything. They simply bear. And in that bearing, there is a kind of ancient wisdom, something archetypal, the movement of a soul that remembers that every imbalance must be leveled, that if no one carries the pain, it will remain and be passed on. They are like living systems of balance, sensing that the world has shifted, that somewhere there is a crack, and they move toward it without knowing why, without asking. They do not descend into darkness out of pride, not from a desire to suffer. They are not seekers of drama, nor obsessed with their pain. They simply respond from within, from some deeper intuition that doesn't belong to the mind, but to the essence of being itself. The soul within them knows, if I do not go there, the balance will not be restored. If I do not bear this, something will collapse. And how easy it is from the outside to call this pathology, to say, look, he has a murder complex. He is obsessed with guilt. He doesn't know how to live for himself. How convenient it is to dress the mystery of love in a diagnosis, to reduce the secret to a mechanism, because it's frightening to admit that perhaps the one we call sick is in fact healthier than the entire society. The psychopathology is not in him. It lies in that blind collective body that refuses to see its own shadow, in that noisy world that calls itself normal, yet is built upon repression, amnesia, the inability to look pain in the eyes. The one who suffers, he is the one who sees. He feels, while all the others have hidden behind the comfort of reason. He is not ill. It is the world that is ill, the world that cannot see. He is not mad. Madness is believing you can live without someone bearing the consequences of forgetfulness. There are souls who instinctively understand this hidden order, systemic compensators. That's what I would call them if I were to speak the language of psychoanalysis. They sense the disturbance in the collective fabric, and without knowing why, they move toward it. Like water that finds the crack in the rock, they flow downward into the cold, the broken, and there they begin to work invisibly, silently, not for themselves, but for all. This is the archetype of the sacrificial healer, not for the suffering ego that punishes itself, but of the soul that understands the rhythm of the universe. In psychoanalytic terms, we might say that here a deep process of transference is at work. The collective projects its shadow onto the person who is most sensitive, most transparent. He experiences it as personal destiny, but in truth, it is psychic work on behalf of everyone. Society hands him its unresolved conflicts, and he translates them through his body, through his mind, through his pain. And how cruel it is that it is precisely then that society calls pathological, because that way it can be freed from guilt. It can say the problem is in him, not in us. But in reality, he is the symptom of our forgetfulness. He is the mirror showing us what we refuse to see. These fallen people carry a healing function. They are like bitter herbs, not beautiful but cleansing. They are the antidote to the collective sickness. Within them, the world's unseen contradictions converge, and though they may look chaotic, they are in truth maintaining balance. Like a stone thrown into stagnant water, its waves seem destructive, but they are necessary to awaken the lake, to stir life again. To call such a person pathological is like calling the rain destructive because it washes away the dust. No, it does not destroy, it cleanses, it clears what we have not had the courage to cleanse ourselves. It takes the murk into itself, and in that lies its quiet mission. On a spiritual level, this is an act of conscious love, though often unconscious on the human level. Love is not always gentle. Sometimes it is firm, dark, almost unbearable. Sometimes it is a descent into the hell of others to return with the spark they lack. It is the action of the soul, not the ego. The ego seeks recognition, the soul seeks healing. And when we call such a one a failure, we do not see that his pain is the price of our awakening. We can see because someone else was willing to go blind for a while. We can breathe easily because someone has taken upon himself the tension of the whole. How lonely such a calling must be. These souls live on the edge of the world. They hear what no one wants to hear. They feel what everyone tries to forget. And still they continue. They carry within them the energy of redemption, and the world does not love redeemers. The world loves winners. But redemption does not come from victory. It comes from the inner consent to suffer consciously, without blame, without pride, to accept suffering not as punishment but as purification, as a way for the world to regain its balance. They are not murderers. They do not self-destruct. They respond to the call of imbalance. As in nature, when one part blends, another shifts to restore wholeness. The soul knows this rhythm. It knows when to yield, when to carry, when to dissolve into silence. And here lies the boundary where psychoanalysis meets mysticism, where personal suffering ceases to be a symptom and becomes a sacred act of cleansing, where the symptom becomes a symbol of return, of integration, of love. The pathology lies within society, in the society convinced that health means conformity, not authenticity, in the society that has turned its back on pain and then is shocked when someone else carries it on their back, in the society that fears its own shadow so deeply it is willing to destroy anyone who shows it. The true hero does not always bring light. Sometimes he is the shadow that must be seen so that light can return. He is the border between the visible and the invisible, between suffering and redemption. He balances invisibly, silently. And when he finally falls, when his strength is gone and the world calls him lost, we fail to see that his fall was our redemption. Perhaps one day we will see, not with our eyes, but with that inner vision unafraid of darkness. And then we will understand that all we called madness, illness, failure was a form of sacred equilibrium, that each who carried more carried it out of love, and that all of us, though in different roles, are part of this invisible dance between darkness and light, between the blind society and the one who sees for all. And when that realization comes, we will soften, we will fall silent, and in that silence, which feels like prayer, perhaps we will finally understand there are no failures, no lost ones. There are only souls who chose to pass through the darkness so they could bring us back the light.